The Cooler Master Cube 500 is kind of like what would happen if Ikea and Cooler Master had a baby. This is a flat packed case that allows you to build it in 6 different configurations. We're gonna explore what one of those configurations is like today in this video, and I wanna show you guys and talk about some things that other people might not have talked about yet. But before that, here's a word from today's video sponsor.
This video is brought to you by VIPSCDkey.com. You install Windows and you see the watermark of death. You don't need to fork out a couple $100 for a key. You can grab one from today's video sponsor. From VIPSCDkey.com for a tenth of the price, and you can use our code GEAR to get 25% off. How good's that? That takes that already cheap Windows key and makes it even cheaper. You place your order, bingo bango, you've got your key on your orders page, you chuck that key into the activation screen and you're good to go. No more watermark of death. Use code GEAR for 25% off, link in the description. On with the video.
I think the most daunting thing from the jump is this manual. It's like a laundry list of everything you need to do to build in certain configurations, but to be honest, it's really not that scary because there is a very, very easy way to build this case. First of all, if you get stuck, there's a QR code that's going to show you how to do everything, and it's in video format. And there's QR codes for every step of the way that's going to help you with the build. So this is quite easy. There's also a line that runs around the box to show you what to do at every stage. But the main thing that I noticed was the order in which you unbox the case is the order in which you should build the case from left to right. First of all, you start with the motherboard tray, then you do PSU bracket, and then you mount the back panel, then you mount the top panel, and so on and so on. So everything is left to right and the order of unboxing. And that, I think, is what a lot of people haven't really mentioned yet. And that's the thing that I think makes this very, very easy to build. Let's start off with mounting the motherboard. See, we've got all the screws here, and every screw that you're using to build the system is exactly the same. You don't have to worry about all the different screws you traditionally find with the case because, yeah, it's all the same. With the Cube 500, I would recommend setting up your motherboard first, but to start off with the installation, we just line it up with the standoffs here that are already pre-installed in the case, and they have those little centering pegs. There's 2 of the centering pegs. As mentioned, all the screws are exactly the same. With that theory on working from left to right, the next thing to do is the power supply. And then we'll use that bracket and we'll lower that onto the power supply. We're using a full-size power supply. You have 3 different locations to mount your power supply in this location here. The thing is, with bigger power supplies, they're obviously not going to fit because you're going to run into issues with clearing the GPU. We're going to use the topmost position just to make our life a little bit easier. And essentially just drop it in, pull it towards you, and then we'll put the screw in the side. Make life a little bit easier a little bit later on in the build. Continuing with the theme from moving top to bottom, left to right, let's install the back panel. Very, very simple. Just slide it into place. And there's 4 screws that go in. You can go left to right, right to left, doesn't really matter. There you have it, the back panel's installed, and you'll notice there's a pre-installed fan up there as well. Next is the front panel installation. I would recommend for this part here, removing the pre-installed faceplate. It just makes it a lot easier to build. For the front panel installation, I would recommend getting the front panel cables that are pre-installed and pushing them away. It's gonna make it a lot easier later when we have to cable manage. And again, it's 4 screws to mount this panel. Just line it up. Everything kind of snaps into place very nicely with the Cube 500. We'll go left to right once again. You'll also notice that all of the screw holes have little crosses on them to show you where to put them in. That also makes it easier because you can build this without using a manual. I would suggest starting with your cable management now. You've got this little cable pass through here, and this is going to make it a bit easier when we get to plugging everything in. And the truth is, if there's things to plug in at the bottom of your motherboard, I would be plugging those things in now. Say for instance, your front panel connector for your lights and your switches, I would plug that in right now. And your front panel audio, I would also plug that in right now. All right, peel that onion back another layer. And we have the bottom and the top panel. Left to right once again with that bottom panel. Here's a quick tip. If you're planning on installing fans at the bottom, now is a good time to do that. You want to flip that panel over, throw that dust filter in the bin, not really, and we'll install those fans now. So we'll just line them up in the way that we want them. Let's say we want them to be intake. We want one there. We want another one there. And we can just put them where we want them. Flip the panel over. Get yourself some screws. And bang them in real quick, because that's how screws work. I'm just going to put 2 screws on each fan just to make our life a little bit easier when I eventually have to pull this thing apart. If you've got fan cables, now is a good time to pass those through the cutouts on the bottom. Essentially how this panel works is it hooks into place, so you kind of lift it up and drop it in, and then there's 2 screws to fasten the panel. They're both on the top if the case is laid down flat. So there'll be one on the left-hand side, then another on the right-hand side. And that magnetic fan filter that we threw in the bin before, good enough. This is probably a good time to whack on the case feet. I know this is slightly out of order, but this is how I do it. The case feet just clip into place very, very easily. No screws required here. If you're using a modular power supply, this is a good time to plug everything in that needs to be plugged in for your power supply's sake, and it's going to make GPU installation easier. And I'm going to show you one of the reasons why I use this power supply, not something a little bit bigger. This is a good time to install your graphics card. There's a reason why I installed the power supply in the orientation that I did. It's because of the cables, and this will have to be a consideration if you're using big GPUs in your own builds. But essentially, you just need to massage your graphics card in if you don't install it earlier through the build. This one does fit. Do a little bit of massaging. There we go. And we'll plug in the power because it's easy to do that right now. I'm going to run it over the back of the card because I've got a right angle cable, nice and clean. We're working left to right. Next up is the top panel. This is a good time to install either fans or a radiator if you're going to be doing that. We're going to be liquid cooling this build, but as with the front panel, I would recommend removing the colored top panel and the magnetic fan and also the filter that is attached to the panel, and we'll install the radiator now. Hang the tubes off a table or whatnot, put the panel on top, line up the holes, and I usually put 4 screws in. You don't have to put all the screws in. The reason why I do it this way, and it's a good reason, is because I build a lot of PCs, I have to take them apart, and if I need to make any adjustments, instead of undoing 8 screws, I can just loosen up 4. And 4 easily holds the weight of a radiator from every point that is required. Now we're going to install the top panel. Feed all of your cables through to the back side to make your life a little bit easier a little bit later on. And then the panel has a lip on the back side, and you kind of angle it and then you drop the panel down, and that's it. And then there's 2 screws to fasten up. Peel away that next layer, and we've got the rear side panel. The rear side panel just hooks in on the bottom edge and then clips into place like that. All right, next layer down, we've got the optional side bracket. This would be if you were to install a radiator or fans on the side which we're not doing in this build because we'll be using the TG side panel. Speaking of, underneath that is the TG side panel. Once we've put that TG side panel on, this is where we can begin to have some fun with the Cube 500. The version we have here has multiple colored side panels. These side panels in this kind of creamy color. We've also got the pink colored side panels, but you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna install all of the different colors. But before that, left to right, ladies and gents, we still have a handle to install. So we'll install this one up the front. This installs on the top by using the included Allen key, remove the screws on the front panel, line up the handle, finger tighten them up as much as you can just to make it a little bit easier for later. This bit is probably the most fiddly part of the whole case, but this whole thing is very, very easy to build in. We'll go for the cream color one on the top, and that's it, all done. All right, thermal time. What you're seeing on your screen right now is the thermals with this hardware in particular is rather good. Remember, the 7800X3D runs quite cool as it is, and this 4080 has an absolutely beefy cooler, so the thermals are quite good. So the difference between the case panels being on and off isn't very much, and I didn't think that changing the filter or removing the filter on the bottom would make much of a difference to the thermals either. And what we're seeing again is the thermals are adequate. Now, if you're interested in any of the hardware that I use for this build in particular, there's a PCPartPicker list down below, but I would have put cards on the screen through those sections of the video showing what all the hardware is, just so you guys know. Okay, what do I think about the Cooler Master Cube 500? I got a couple things to say. First of all, the idea for this case is really, really cool, and the execution is really, really cool. And this is one of the easiest systems I've built in a long time, even including the fact that I had to build the case. Building the case around the hardware is pretty nice and a very elegant solution. And now that we have this idea put out into the world, let's see more cases like this. I think this is a fantastic way of building a PC and easily one of the most elegant ways to do it. I know I'm repeating myself here, but I really had fun building this because the difference between putting something like this together and a regular PC is, you know, you're just dumping hardware in a case, but this makes it more fun. This is kind of like a bespoke small form factor case from a bespoke manufacturer, but this is from Cooler Master, big case manufacturer doing really nice big case things, mass producing a case in a way that it makes it easy for people to understand. Even the instructions online with the QR codes and whatnot make this super easy to build. I didn't even use the manual. I just figured it out as I went, and I thought that that was a nice way of building it, because even if you didn't want to look at the manual, I don't think you need to, right? Like I said, left to right, top to bottom, and you're good to go building with the Cube 500. An incredibly enjoyable experience, not very frustrating at all. I would say the only frustration is putting the front handle on with using the Allen key in there, but other than that, I don't hate the Cube 500. This case is really fun. I think if you're up for a bit of a challenge and you want to think differently with how you build, this could be a really fun case for you to play around with. Flat pack cases are good as well, mainly because for shipping, all of the materials are smaller, the boxes are smaller. Yeah, it probably weighs the same amount, but the fact that I don't need to have a huge box and storage when I have to store this makes it nice for me. So let's see more flat pack cases, not just from Cooler Master, from different manufacturers, and I think there's a lot that can be done with flat pack cases in general. So good work, Cooler Master. I actually enjoyed building with this and I didn't hate it. Also wanted to add, I know a lot of people are gonna complain at the fact that you can't do 360mm liquid coolers and 360mm radiators and whatnot. I couldn't give a shit. I don't think it matters with a case like this because there's so many different internal configurations. If you really wanted to, you can build a custom loop with 2 radiators and then you don't need a 360mm liquid cooler. You can also do a 280mm liquid cooler if you really wanted to up the front, and you can put the power supply at the bottom. Most people with computers these days, they're not going to use the bottom PCIe slot, so why don't you just chuck your power supply down there? I just don't think it matters. I really don't think it matters. If you want a 360mm liquid cooler, buy another case. And the thing is, if you're buying a flat pack PC case and this is something you're researching and you're a DIY builder, you know what you're getting yourself into and you know that you're looking for a case that does not have a 360mm liquid cooler already, right? A lot of people complain about this stuff, but don't sweat the small stuff, guys, because I don't think it's that important that it doesn't support it. Being honest here, if you've got a 7800 X3D, this is the perfect case. As for the price, this is where it gets interesting. If you're interested in the Cooler Master QUBE 500, in the US, they're starting at 79 US dollars. Here in Australia, they're starting at 129 Aussie dollars. And for the macaron version that we've got here with all the different colored panels, this one's going for 149 Aussie dollars. I'm not sure how much that is in the US, but I would say that's not terrible value. The build quality is phenomenal. This is a very well put together case. The paint finish is exquisite. Cooler Master nailed this case. I think it's really, really nice. Like usually Cooler Master can be quite hit and miss, but this is really good. And I know this might contradict what I said about how nice the case is. I hate how it looks. I'm not a fan. I really don't care for how it looks. The idea is very, very cool. I like the fact you can put the case together, but it's a bit boring. And changing the panels is cool. It's nice that it includes a bunch of different colors, but it is a bit boring. Like, that's the truth. And you know I'm gonna be honest with you guys, but overall I think Cooler Master nailed the idea of the case. The design is really nice too, but it's just not my cup of tea. And that's what you guys wanna know. Would I buy it? I don't know, like if I wanted to tinker with something, yeah, cool, but nah, it's not really for me, but it is a very, very nice idea. I did say that at Computex when I saw the case as well. I think I might have even said that in the video. I can just be funny. Why can't I do that? Is that illegal? Claire's behind the camera saying, don't do that. It is a very cool idea, but it's not for me. If you like the music you heard here, it's me, I make all the music, and I'm your boy Nick with Gear Seekers. Subscribe, all that jazz, and watch a video up here. Let's put it up here today. There you go, there's a video to watch. Watch this thing, it's probably something else, or maybe it's like the Computex video where I talked shit about this case already. There's still a video up there, guys, but I just want to say I love you very much and don't take life too seriously, all right? Computers, whatever, video games, it doesn't have to be serious. Just have some fun.